He was forced to his knees on the blood-slicked scaffold. The midday sun beat down as Dr. Joseph Guillotin stared at the crimson-stained blade poised above. The crowd fell to a hush. In that moment, he knew the merciless machine he had championed would claim him next. Just days before, this man was no criminal at all. Dr. Joseph Guillotin was a respected physician and a deputy in revolutionary France. He never imagined he would one day kneel at the guillotine, especially not as its victim, condemned by the very cause he once served. Yet years earlier, Guillotin had championed this very device. He loathed the cruel tortures of old Europe. Hoping to end needless suffering, he proposed a swift, mechanical beheading machine. It was meant to be merciful, but in the frenzy of the revolution, mercy was in short supply. Paris, 1794. The city is gripped by the reign of terror. Each day at dawn, the guillotine claims dozens of new victims. The device earned the nickname the National Razor, and its blade fell so often that public executions became a grim routine in the capital. Years earlier, Dr. Guillotin stood in the National Assembly and argued that if people must die, it should be quick and equal. No more breaking on wheels or burning at stakes. A humane mechanical blade would bring death in one swift, clean stroke. At first, his wish seemed granted. By 1792, France adopted the guillotine as its standard execution method. Even King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette met their fate beneath its blade. Death came faster now, but death came far more often. Now that ideal of mercy had curdled into horror. By 1794, the guillotine was a tool of mass repression. Nobles, priests, and ordinary citizens were dragged to the scaffold on the thinnest of accusations. The wooden platform ran red with blood. The very cobblestones reeked of gore in the summer sun. Crowds gathered every morning to watch. Some jeered and cheered with morbid excitement. Others looked on in silent dread. Knitters, les tricoteuses, sat beside the scaffold, calmly working yarn as heads thumped into baskets. Fear hung over Paris like a poisonous fog. No one was beyond suspicion. By 1794, Dr. Guillotin was sickened by the very terror he had unwittingly abetted. He had wanted fewer deaths, not more. In whispers, he began questioning the bloodbath consuming France. But in those fevered days, even a hint of mercy could draw suspicion like blood in the water. The final blow came when Guillotin tried to save a life. A colleague of his was marked for execution on dubious charges. Guillotin appealed for clemency, just a brief letter urging mercy. It was enough. To the revolution's fanatics, he now looked like a sympathizer of traitors. One night, a pounding came at his door. Armed men from the Committee of Public Safety seized him and ransacked his home. He was dragged to prison without understanding the charges. In the cells, he waited among dozens of other doomed souls, hearing the distant thuds of the guillotine each day. When Guillotin finally faced the revolutionary tribunal, it was little more than a ritual of condemnation. The judges accused him of treason and anti-revolutionary sentiments. No witnesses were called in his defense. His plea, that he had only sought humanity, not treason, fell on deaf ears. The verdict was decided before the trial began. Death. The sentence was to be carried out at dawn the next day, by the guillotine, the very instrument that bore his name. Guards smirked at the irony as they led him away. Dr. Guillotin's fate was sealed. Before dawn, Guillotin's cell door creaked open. He and a group of other condemned were pulled out into the cold morning. A priest murmured prayers, but Guillotin barely heard them over the roar of blood in his ears. This was the last day of his life. They were loaded into a wooden cart. As the tumbril rolled through Paris, Guillotin's eyes roamed familiar streets. How many times had he walked these roads free? People lined the route, hurling insults and stones. Others just watched in eerie silence as the doomed procession passed. After a rattling ride, they arrived at the execution site. The guillotine loomed against the sky, a grim monument. Its platform was stained dark with the blood of previous victims. A headless body was dragged away as he stepped off the cart. The stench of blood hit him immediately. They began calling names. One by one, prisoners ascended the scaffold. Guillotin's turn had not yet come, forcing him to watch the horror unfold again and again. He flinched with each wet thunk of the blade, each cheer from the crowd. Fear gnawed at him, but he refused to cry out. For all his dread, Guillotin vowed to meet his end with dignity, refusing to give the mob the satisfaction of seeing his fear. At last, Guillotin, the doctor, climbed the wooden steps on shaking legs. The crowd surged forward, eager for this irony. Some shouted with glee, "Guillotin to the guillotine!" The man who preached mercy was now to die the most public of deaths. He was made to kneel and stretch his neck. The executioners pressed him onto the bascule, a wooden plank that would swing and lock him in place. His neck was clamped tight between the wooden blocks. Guillotin's heart pounded. Above, the heavy blade creaked as it was winched up to its peak. He waited, breathless. A drum roll echoed. In that final moment, Guillotin's life flashed before his eyes. The ideals he had championed, now twisted by terror. The day he proposed this merciful machine, never imagining it would become a tool of horror. But there was no more time. The executioner dropped his hand. The blade fell with a hiss and met flesh with a brutal thunk, severing Guillotin's neck in an instant. His severed head plummeted into the basket, eyes open in shock. A crimson spray splattered across the scaffold as his lifeless body convulsed, then went still. An assistant held up the head by its hair for the crowd to see. A roar of triumph erupted from many throats at the spectacle. Blood dripped from the pale severed flesh onto the wooden boards. Some in the audience cheered wildly at the sight, while others turned away, faces ashen. After the spectacle, the crowd drifted away. To them, it was just another execution in a long, bloody summer. Dr. Guillotin's headless body was dumped into a common grave, indistinguishable from the hundreds of others killed that year. The revolution carried on, blind to the cruel irony. Guillotin's death quenched nothing of the bloodlust. The blade slid through neck after neck in the days after. The frenzy was nearing its climax. Weeks later, the tribunal that condemned him fell. Robespierre was seized and fed to the same blade, ending the terror in late 1794. In the end, the revolution devoured one of its own. Dr. Guillotin, the man who tried to civilize execution, was consumed by the very violence he sought to curb. His fate is a grim lesson. In times of hysteria and bloodlust, even principled men can be swept up and destroyed by the storm. This dark tale forces you to wonder. In an age of terror, would you have dared to stand for mercy as Guillotin did? Would you speak out against cruelty, knowing it could be your head in the basket next? Or would fear keep you silent while the blade falls, hoping merely to survive the carnage? Thank you for joining me in this journey through dark history. How does Dr. Guillotin's fate make you feel? Share your thoughts and feelings about this story in the comments below. I would love to hear your perspective. If you thought this was horrifying, wait until you hear about death by sawing, the martyrs of Persia, 2nd century AD.